Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Samantha and today we're going to be talking about books. More specifically, we're going to be talking about books that I'm going to be unhauling. Okay, so this is a rather big unhaul. Normally I only unhaul like a couple books at a time and I put them on like my Pango bookstore and it's not that big of a deal, but I have decided that I want this piece of furniture in my living room. And to get this piece of furniture, I have to clear out some of my bookshelves. So this is probably one of my bigger unhauls here on my channel. And I also won't lie to you, it's going to be a lot of elusive books that most people have probably never heard of. And that is because most of these books come from my college days when I was a broke college student and I just went into like the local used bookstore and picked out anything that sounded interesting and would like fuel my brain. So a lot of them are really random, which might be fun for you guys. There's a couple titles that you guys might recognize as well, just thrown in here, books that I didn't quite enjoy as much as others. But that being said, these are all going to be on my Pango bookstore, which is linked down below. So if you want any of these books, you can purchase them there. Also, you can help support the channel by purchasing a book there. I also have some bookmarks that I make for funsies. I'm just going to dive into it because there are a lot of books. I think we're going to start off with the 3 books that I've actually already sold. The first one, Victorian City by Judith Flanders. So I got this one as like an ARC before Judith Flanders released it. I think it was in like 2013. That being said, it's actually a really great book. The only reason that I unhauled it was because I'm never going to read it again or need to reference it again. Judith Flanders is an amazing author. This is a fiction on the Victorian city, the Victorian era. So basically she goes into like de-romanticizing the Victorian age. Whereas so she gives us like the actual gist of like sewage in the streets and the ridiculous fashion styles and the rampant disease and crimes and everything else that was going on in this era. Honestly, if Judith Flanders could write textbooks, I think we would solve the education issues in our country because she's an amazing writer. Highly recommend any books that she writes. I think she has probably about 3 or 4 out at this point, and the Victorian City was wonderful. I actually read that cover to cover. And the other book that I got rid of was Persephone Station. I think it's Stina Leck is the author. This is a space opera, and I read it earlier this year. I did not like it. I DNF'd it. I have decided I'm not a space opera gal. Like, I love the synopsises. They sound so intriguing. I want to be a space opera person, but then I get into the book and I just can't. It just doesn't grab my attention. I can't concentrate on what's going on, and it just goes completely over my head, and I feel so bad because like it sounds so good. It sounds so good. I actually do forget the synopsis for this one, but I know for a fact that it sounded really good because I picked it up and the cover's gorgeous. Okay. I think there's now like 2 other books in the series. They're all beautiful covers. This was a cover buy for me. That's probably why I don't remember the synopsis and why I ended up DNFing it. But yes, that one has already made its new home. And the last one was, see, this is where we're gonna like really be thrown back an era. Water for Elephants, which is like a historical fiction based off of a carnival and a soldier, I forget what war he's a veteran of, joins the carnival and falls in love with a woman who is currently like being abused by the ringleader of this carnival, and it's just very dramatic, very historical fiction-y. It had a film adaptation with Robert Pattinson, which is probably why I picked up the book. But yeah, that one has already made its new home as well. So 3 books off of my DNF Pango Books store. Not DNF, but like unhaul Pango Bookstore. So let's get started on the ones over here. I think we'll start with this one. This is Wanderlust by Elizabeth Eves. This is a love affair with 5 continents. Basically, this is a nonfiction traveling memoir about a woman, and it's like Love, Eat, and Pray, but it's like the indie small publishing edition of this. I thought it was okay. It's fairly whiny to me. I didn't enjoy it when I read it the first time, but I kept it around. The cover is very beautiful. I can't say much about this because I've read it so long ago. This was definitely one of the ones that I just picked out of the thrift store out of like a desire to read something. I definitely went through like a travel nonfiction memoir phase in my life, and this is one of those ones that I picked up. All right. The next one, The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz. I just won't ever read this book again. I read it. It's very impactful, very intriguing. This is a fiction book about an immigrant. I believe he's an immigrant. Yeah. It's just like this nerdy kid. He goes from the Dominican Republic into the United States, and then he ends up going back to the Dominican Republic. It's another book that I picked up at the thrift store when I was younger. I think there's like a dual timeline going on. There's probably someone who can talk more eloquently about this book, because it had been such a long time since I have read it. But I know it is one of those books that people recommend a lot. It is a book that is very impactful and has a wonderful POV. So there's that one. Next one is a very old copy of Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne. If you don't know what this is, it is literally one of the OG science fiction books about a journey to the center of the earth and what is found there. Basically a mystical land, like an encapsulated land. You're like dinosaurs and all this other nonsense that happens. I am just getting rid of this because I have a better edition of all of Jules Verne's books, and it's just we're just getting rid of this one. It's an interesting like edition. It's a Penguin Classic, but it's one of the colored ones. It's very interesting. The next one is The Dark Vault by Victoria Schwab. I think I've come to the conclusion that I'm not a middle grade fan when it comes to Victoria Schwab. I have to, it's a very particular, like, I like Victoria Schwab. I love her as an author. If you don't follow her on Instagram, you definitely should. She did a bunch of live interviews with other authors discussing writing, and it's all very amazing. You should definitely look it up. But I'm not a fan of most of her books, as awful as that sounds. The idea of all of her books are very intriguing. I always get sucked in to wanting to read them, and then they don't like click with me, and I think it has something to do with the writing. It's the same thing with Holly Black. I love Holly Black as an author, but I have the same issue with her books for some reason. That it's just like it doesn't click. I don't know. I think it's honestly just my brain, because these books are actually really good, and the premises to a lot of Victoria Schwab's books are very intriguing. This is one of her first published books. This is a collection, I believe, of 3 books. Yeah, The Archived and The Unbound. It's a duology, but this one is okay. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Just it doesn't vibe with me, so we're just gonna move along. Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This was the first Riley Sager I ever read, and it was for a book club. Definitely enjoyed it. I just don't need to stick around on my shelves because I'm not going to reread it again. I know what it is. I know how it ends. I'm not interested in rereading it. So I'm going to pass it on to someone who has not read it, hopefully for like, a cheaper price than what I probably purchased it for. But it was a good one. It was creepy. I appreciated it. There's very few thrillers that I really enjoy, and this one was definitely one of them. So, of course, Riley Sager. If you can hear my kids, they're perfectly fine. They're doing quiet time. It's not very quiet. Anyways, the next book is one I picked up in college. It is a travel memoir. It's called A Wolverine is Eating My Leg. And if I know past me, I know that I picked this up simply because of the title. And I honestly have kept it on my shelves because of the title. So whoever chose this title, you win. This is a book by Tim Cahill. He is a blogger, travel blogger. He was very popular in like the 90s. And it's just a funny travel memoir. Like, this dude it's funny. He just travels around, gets into situations, obviously. A Wolverine is Eating My Leg. I might actually just keep it on my shelves because I like the title. I'm a wreck, guys. Another one from the college days. This is Burning Man by Brian Daltrey. This is basically just a collection of essays on Burning Man, how Burning Man came to be, what it has evolved into. This is definitely an older book, so it would be interesting to see if like you can compare it to like the Burning Man now, and how like it's evolved even past that. Really it's literally just about that cultural phenomenon, where it came from and how it's evolved, which is really just intriguing. I enjoyed it. It makes you want to go to Burning Man, just fair warning. Like, there's literally a picture in here that's a bunch of naked people doing an art installation, so college me. The next one is going to be Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I just didn't like it. I didn't like it. I have tried to read it twice now. I just can't do it. Very cliche-y. I think that's kind of like that's kind of the motive for this book. It's a combination of a lot of different things as far as like a cliche, like middle grade fantasy book. It's supposed to be that way. It's probably a really good comfort read for some people who can take the seriousness out of it. I have a hard time doing that with fantasy. It's the same reason why I didn't like Fourth Wing. Like I'm a fantasy snob, I guess. I hate to say it. I hate to admit it. But this is supposed to be a fantasy book about two students at a magical school, and I just couldn't get into it. It's a little too easy, not easy, but a little too just like casual for me. I don't know. Casual fantasy is no longer my thing. The Wednesday Letters by Jason F. Wright. This is a book that will make you cry. It is a romance book about a husband who writes his wife a letter every Wednesday. No matter what is going on in their life, she receives a letter every Wednesday. And you just follow this couple along in their life. And it's sweet. And it's heart-wrenching. I wonder if it would remind me of Up if I reread it, you know? The other Victoria Schwab's. Okay, so to be fair, I loved these books. This is the Savage Song and Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab. This is another YA. I want to say this is more of a YA series. It's a dystopian sort of setting, a fantasy dystopian setting. Absolutely love this book. There's a main male character who uses music to fend off demons, different types of demons, and there's I forget what she is able to do. She hunts, and they have a demon hunter. So honestly, I love these books. They were great. This is one of the ones that I really appreciated. Next, these two. Sometimes College Sam. A Million Little Pieces by James Frey and My Friend Leonard by James Frey. Basically, these are just both books about addiction and recovering from addiction and rehab and everything that goes along with that. Both very depressing. This one was like an Oprah book club pick, and there was like a huge drama about the author because he over-exaggerated some of the things in this supposedly nonfiction book. I think now they do print it as a fiction book instead of nonfiction, not a memoir, because it has been disproven a lot of the things that he claims happened to him in this first book. The second book is definitely just, I think, they literally just put it down as literature. I don't think they phrased it as nonfiction or fiction, but it is a story about his friend going through addiction and rehabbing and recovery. And it's just really dramatic. It's just very dramatic and hard to read. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Yes, this one has to leave my shelf. I don't have space for this hunker on my shelf. I'm never going to reread it. In fact, looking at it makes me mad because I really loved Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and this one just really let me down and put me in one of the biggest reading slumps I've had in years. I wanted so badly to love this series, and this was such a disappointment, and I can't look at it because it makes me angry, so it's leaving my shelf. If you don't know what this is about, this is basically a romantasy about Poppy. She's a maiden and a rebel leader, and there's vampires and werewolves and shapeshifters and magic, and honestly a wonderful premise, a wonderful first book. Not so great with the second one. Lost Worlds Vikings by J.M. Clements. It's a nonfiction book about Vikings. It's a little cute little picture book. It really just the basics of Vikings and their belief systems, and it has really cool images. I'm just getting rid of it because I don't need it anymore. It was intriguing. It's like a good coffee. It's a coffee table book basically, but I just need to get on my ops. Next book, The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This is a book club pick that I read with a bunch of other people. This was okay. It's not my favorite Christina Lauren. I don't mind passing it on to other people, especially I got the UK cover for some reason. I don't know how that happened, but if someone wants a UK cover of The Unhoneymooners, I have one. It's okay. It was decent. It was middle of the line for me as far as romances go. I like Love in Other Words a lot more than this one. I will not reread this one. I will reread Love in Other Words. So, we had to make cuts. Okay, guys, we had to make cuts. Next one, 3 Cups of Tea by Greg Mortensen and David Oliver Rellin. So this is another one. As funny as it is, Oprah picking books in the 90s and the early 2010s. ma'am. So this was also an Oprah Book Club pick. This book also came out to have some falsities in it. So like James Frey's Million Little Pieces and 3 Cups of Tea by Greg Mortensen. Basically this book took off. People did some investigating into like these schools that he was making in the Middle East for children and women, and it turns out that, you know, he kind of used some funds for not so great things, and yeah, that's a thing. It was, I read it while I was still in college, and I did, or it was high school, maybe it might have been high school, and I did a report on it and his foundation and what actually happened with all of his money in his foundation. Very interesting. Yeah, it's about Greg Mortensen, and he's a climber. He lived in he didn't live in Pakistan, but obviously being a climber, he traveled through Pakistan a lot, and he came to the realization, 1993 I think is when he did it. He made 55 he raised money for 55 schools for girls in Pakistan. Supposedly. There was a drama. Voices of the Wind by Native American Legends by Margaret Emmons and Ella E. Clark. This is another, where did I get this one? I think this was a used bookstore. This is when I was going through my Native Legends class, or Native Mythology class, Native Religions class. I think it was a Native Religions class, I think is what the specification was for that class. And I picked this book up to read just as like an extra little dose of what we were discussing. And interesting, intriguing. I would honestly put this more as like a coffee table book than anything else. I would take everything that's saying here with a grain of salt, because this isn't an own voices collection of stories. And as I learned in my Native Religions class, you can't trust everything that natives tell other people, because a lot of the time they are skewing things so that you don't actually know, so that they can keep, you know, some of the stuff to themselves, which is fair. Okay, we took enough, let them have something, right? So while it was still an intriguing read, I would definitely take anything that's said in here with a grain of salt, which you should do anyways with any sort of academic fiction book, by the way. The Ruin of Kings by Jen Leons is another one that I put up on my Pango Books. I didn't like this book. The only reason I've kept it this long is because it is black and gold underneath the cover, and it looked good on my bookshelf, and since we're moving bookshelves, I can eat this one. This is actually a very complicated, very complex fantasy book that would have been amazing had a couple things been tweaked. It has altering timelines, or it has dividing timelines where you're like starting at one part and they like collide together and then they go. Like I said, very intriguing, very complex. This is like a 10-book series. I have no desire to read any more from this. It had potential, so maybe I didn't like it. Maybe my idea of like has potential is someone else's cup of tea, and they don't think it needs any improvements. So it was good. It was like well written. It was interesting, intriguing. I just think it could have been better, and I'm not going to read 10 books in this series. Getting Rid of Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. The second book to the series is already on my Pango Books, and I decided it is time for it to go. I'm never going to reread it. They are very interesting covers, which is probably why I kept it for so long, but it's time for it to go. If you don't know, Emily A. Duncan was one of those authors that thought it would be alright to comment on someone who was reviewing her books. Please don't do that. Authors, please don't do that. Safe spaces, okay? You gotta have safe spaces for your reviewers to do what they wish. Also, don't tag authors in your bad reviews. Not cool. Not a cool move. I don't think that person did, but just, you know, FYI. Alright? But yeah, we're getting rid of that one. There's also Crave by Tracy Wolff. If you didn't see my wrap-up last month, you know how I feel about this book. Basically, it's like a rewrite of Twilight. I say rewrite, but it's basically like this generation's Twilight, which is great, awesome. I loved Twilight in my generation, okay? It was amazing. You can fight me, I don't care. It's nostalgic, all right? And this is this generation's Twilight. If you can't tell from the freaking cover, should have known from the cover. I, however, don't like how the author always used the line AF unironically, like he is sexy AF, and like talked about posting things to their IG feed. I'm too old. I'm too old for this. I had my Twilight. I don't need another Twilight. I like the nostalgia where it's kept in my past. Obviously, that's why I'm getting rid of all these books. It's just about a girl who goes to a school in the middle of Alaska and discovers that all those creatures are alive, you know, and well. vampires, werewolves, and then the dramas of going to high school added in onto that. Next book, Beast of Night and Crown of Thunder by Tochi Onyebuchi. Beast of Night by Tochi Onyebuchi. I read Riot Baby by this author. Amazing. Highly recommend everyone read it. It's a magical realist book. Absolutely amazing. I love this author. Once again, like Victoria Schwab, I love this author. His books read like an anime. So if you really like anime, I would go into reading this book like you would watch anime, because if you can picture it like that, it is absolutely beautiful. I did pick up the first book. I tried to read it. I just was never in the mood for them. There's nothing wrong with them, to be honest with you. I just don't think I'm actually going, I don't think I'm going to pick them up. And I want to pass them on to somebody else who might appreciate them more. You know how that goes? Beautiful covers. Beautiful covers. Whoever designed these covers did an amazing job. And like I said, Tony, great author. Great author. 2 more books and I get the mama yells. And there's the cat. That's what I get for trying to make a long video. Like, this is why we can't do long videos around this house. She's gonna come wreck shit. Can you see her yet? No, there she is. Okay, I have 2 more books. All right, if you hung on this long, give me a couple more seconds. Acid Test by Tom Schroeder, another very elusive book that I don't think many people know about. Tom Schroeder did a study on treating PTSD with acid. Very cool, very intriguing, very interesting. If you're into like a nonfiction book, I would highly recommend picking this one up as well. No? Psychology. Therapy. Loved it. It was interesting, it was amazing. I actually wrote a paper about this one as well, just so you know. Next, last one. Children of Blood and Bone by Tommy Adeyemi. I picked this one up. It was at Walmart and I picked it up. The cover is gorgeous. Love the cover. All right, this is why it's been on my shelf this long. I didn't quite enjoy the story. There was nothing really wrong with it. It was just, once again, just kind of one of those middle of the line books for me, and it's time to let it go. All right. I think I'm gonna have to end it there because I don't know if you can hear my children, but they are saying hello. My cat is in here with me as well. This is why I can't do long videos, guys. This is why my unhauls are normally only 4 or 5 books. I think I talked fast enough. You might have to slow this down. But anyways, that's it for today. Those are all the books that I'm unhauling. Like I said, a lot of like weird niche books that I just picked up randomly. If something sounded interesting to you and you want to know more about it, just like comment down below and I'll talk to you about it. I have no issue with that. Or DM me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is down below as well. Other than that, if you've survived this long, go ahead and subscribe and I will see you guys in the next video. That's it. Subscribe, like, comment. Bye everyone. I'll see you next time.